that advice you gave me that day, and you're kind of expounding on it right now, makes me think of this notion of identity. And I would love to say that we had planned that segue, but that was really, I hadn't heard that before, so it just happened to work great.
Good.
This is a picture I took down at the Cincinnati Museum Center of an art exhibit, The Art of the Brick. If anybody has kids that like Legos, you should take them there. But once you stop marveling at the Legos and you actually start seeing the art that he is, the artist is Nathan Sawaya, I believe is how he pronounces it, S-A-W-A-Y-A. There's so many thought-provoking pieces in there, and this was one of them. And it makes me think of, understanding who we are, right? What is the shape we are in? Whether it's our upbringing, the life experiences, the challenges, whatnot. And I know recently you talked at Wright State University to the athletes that were there, and this was your kind of topic, was about identity. So share a little bit with the folks here about the importance of understanding who you are, and in particular, that road, that journey you had to go to and through to get that understanding.
I think one of the most important characteristics in a leader is self-awareness, understanding who you are, and unfortunately, it probably takes some time to do this. My identity was completely tied up in being a football player. From the time I was in second grade through high school, I mentioned in college, that's really all I did was prepare, was work hard to be a professional football player. And so if that becomes your identity, though, you have a big problem, because at some point that's going to go away. And so everybody probably has had certain things that they've done that has become them. And so I talk to my brother AJ about this all the time, because I don't want that to be his identity, and I want him to be known for a lot of other things. And so the majority of our conversations are about things outside of football, so that we're more than just what we do. I spoke with Brady Quinn, another family member, and he said when he moved from playing on the field to up in the broadcast booth, it was like watching the love of his life marry another guy. Powerful, depressed. I was too, the same way. I vividly remember my last college game. It was a really terrible day. I couldn't stop crying for many, many hours before the game, during the game, after the game. It was awful, because I knew that something was probably ending. My identity was, what was I going to do? I don't know. And so you kind of go on this journey of self-awareness that you have to understand who you are. And so I think for me, it's being kind of diverse. It's understanding what you're good at, understanding what you're not, understanding your values, what you care about, your core mission statement, your principles. So I think there's a lot there that identity is. It's imperative that you take time to think about your own personal identity and what you do. It's not just what you do here at Lexus or what you do somewhere else. It's all of you. It's what you embody, and I think I learned this the hard way, and it took many years to do it, though. But I think I feel I'm in probably a little bit better space now than I was previously.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we've talked about, and I appreciate your willingness to share that, because it resonates. One of the truths in life is when you have something, a story, an anecdote, an experience, a failure that you think is unique, and you're kind of embarrassed about it, ashamed about it, and you keep it to yourself. When you finally face that fear, right, and put it out there, inevitably somebody says, I had that same thing. I've been through that same thing, right?
Yep.
And I had that same thing. So, my first 5 or so years as a prosecutor, I was here in Dayton, and I got fired. And all of a sudden, like my whole life, I was working towards, if you asked me, you said I'm an attorney, I would say, no, I'm not. I'm not a lawyer either. I'm a prosecutor, right? I had this really narrow description of who I was, this very defined self-identity. In fact, I would even joke with people. I'd be like, when God made me, he said, I'm going to make a prosecutor, right? Because that's what I was. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like these shows where these detective shows, and the hard-charging rogue detective just trying to get justice, and the browbeating, micromanaging sergeant finally pulls their badge and they have to turn it in, and they put it on and they huff out. I had to do that, and it's not like on TV. I sobbed because my badge was my identity of I was a prosecutor, I was in law enforcement, this is what I had worked for, I was so proud of it. And I had to lay it, actually, I don't know if Justin Evans is here or not, but his mom, I actually put it in her hand. I had to hand it to her, which was a weird thing when I first met him that first day, and he's like, I know who you are. Okay. But I went through almost a year of not just unemployment, but also this real emotional crisis of who am I if I'm not that anymore? And so I really appreciate when we first started talking about your Right State talk, about you being willing to go there in public and say, I went through that, and this is what it felt like. And, let me stir up the conversation and get at least some thinking moving so that you can better prepare yourself, because we all face these at some point or another.